96.7 LiteFM.
Hey, I'm Christine Nagy, and I'm talking with Lena Hall today. I'm so thrilled that you came in. Lena and I met recently at a, this was a special show. I know, hi, camera. A special show with Josh Groban.
Yes.
Where I saw you do a duet with him.
Yes.
All I ask of you?
Yeah. It's so,
From Phantom.
Yeah, so randomly. He's a friend of mine. He actually came and saw Hedwig and the Angry Inch, and then afterwards he reached out, and we ended up becoming really good friends and hanging out whenever he was in New York. And so as a joke, I don't know why, he had released his album and I was in San Francisco and he had told me that he had mentioned me in these interviews or whatever. And I was like, great. And I was like, I texted him, I said, so when are you going to ask me to sing a duet with you? Like, what's going on? And he just immediately texted me back and he was like, do you want to sing a song with me on Tuesday? It was that Tuesday. I think I texted him on Thursday and I was in San Francisco and he was like, Tuesday. And I was like, yes. I wasn't going to say no. I was the one who was,
Yes.
complaining to him. And so he did All I Ask of You, which is a total different shift from what I usually sing, because usually I sing rock and roll. So I was super nervous, but it was such an honor to get to sing with him and to perform with him live on stage. It's a much different experience than watching him perform, because the energy that kind of vibrates off of him is something totally different than what you would imagine, what you feel from the audience. So it was a really cool experience, and definitely nerve-wracking because it was like, it was just open to the public.
Yeah, here we go. Hi, everybody. So we're going to sing, my buddy and I.
Yeah, a song I had never sung before.
Oh, you were great.
And so, it was a bit nerve-wracking, but in the end, it was so fun, and I was really honored to be a part of that.
So, just to rub it in, like, this will never happen again. Like, producer Jamie and I saw it, and a group of people, and that's it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I mean, yeah, maybe it'll happen again. You can see the video on YouTube.
Yeah. We posted it too on our website at LiteFM. It's all over the place.
But I'm sure Josh will ask me to do something else.
He better.
I mean, we're friends, so I talk to him constantly. So it's not, it's not out of the realm, and it's not like I'm a schlub. So
Now, you kind of know what you're doing. We should backtrack a little, because I'm like, Lena Hall's here and I'm excited. Here we go. So Lena is a Tony winner for Hedwig and the Angry Inch, where you got to play a dude.
A dude.
Which was so cool. How good did that feel to be a dude just for a little while?
It was fun. It was great to be able to lose myself in a character completely, change my body completely, change who I was completely on stage every single night. And what was hard about it was that 7 shows a week, it starts to wear and tear on your body, especially when you do physically kind of the adjustment I was doing. And also, I had to move a lot of set pieces, which were all weighted normally. So they weren't light or dummy set pieces.
They were real.
They were for real. And just the constant lifting of these mic stands, which were weighted. They were about 20 pounds each, which doesn't seem like that much, but moving them about 10 times in the show and having to move them like a dude, so, just grabbing them, moving them and placing them and not like, daintily, like, picking them up.
Protecting your back.
Yeah, or protecting your arms or your wrists or anything. It caused a lot of damage, and I had torn a tendon here, and I torn a tendon here, and I've re-injured this wrist.
Oh, no.
From not doing anything.
We get it, because our studio doors are weighted. I can't even get in and out that door like 10 times a day like I need to. It does the same thing. I'm completely with you.
Yeah. So it's just like
the little things.
It's the little things, and then the wear and tear, and my body posture completely changed. I lost the curvature in my back. So I'm now on the course of getting it back. I wear this device that tells me when I'm slouching, because that was part of the character.
We all need one of those. Yeah.
I know, that was part of the character, was that he slouched down a lot. And so my natural body stance has become that of Yitzhak, of a man. And so I'm trying to adjust everything back to being girly. And it's been a tough fight. It's been a fight. So I'm wearing this like little device that if you slouch, it vibrates, and then you unslouch.
A little like zing.
Yeah.
Sit up straight, young lady. It's like your mom's there all the time.
It's like a shock. It shocks you.
So, okay, so I hope it's not going off today. Like, you look good. You look
feeling good.
feminine. I think you got it back.
I'm
I
feeling
think you're okay.
good.
I know you've been performing with your band, and I want to get to that, but also how you came to Hedwig, because to me, that's the dream come true, that you had this amazing role in such a beautiful show. But you had done some Broadway before that too, right?
Yeah, I started off in Broadway as just a kid. I was in Cats on Broadway. That was my first Broadway show. And I mean, that was amazing. Of course, I cried a lot.
Kitty tears of joy.
Kitty tears of joy. And then, and that actually moved me to New York because I'm from San Francisco originally. And I auditioned with an open call in San Francisco for the touring company, which they then hired me right when I turned 18. Like they hired me. I had to become an adult really fast. And then they moved me to Broadway. And so I moved to New York just right out of the gate. And I was very lucky, extremely fortunate. And then I went and I did some tours. I did 42nd Street on Broadway. I did a little-known show called Dracula on Broadway. That was at the Belasco.
Uh-huh.
And funny enough, I played a man in that as well, but not like you would think. It was it was like extra. It was like, girls playing stewards, just as extras in the scene. And but the girls were these we were these Babelicious Dracula girls, vampire girls, and we had this amazing makeup on and these gorgeous gowns and hair, and we were done to the nines. And then we'd run and do a quick change backstage and put on a beard and a fat suit, come on stage and be men.
Wow, they made you work for it.
It was really funny. There was no way we looked like men. We had just like massive eye makeup on, and then so I did that, and then I did Tarzan, the musical. I was in the original cast of that, and I covered Jane. I did lots of flying. It was an interesting show. It was an interesting Disney venture. And then I kind of took a hiatus for a little while to focus on my band, The Deafening. And while I was focusing on my band, I kind of focused on what it was I really loved to do. Did I really love this kind of the traditional musical theater, or did I want to do something a little edgier, a little different? And I ended up liking the edgier and different things better. So I went off. I did a show at Williamstown Theater Festival. It was called The Last Goodbye, and Jeff Buckley. It was the catalog of Jeff Buckley, set to Romeo and Juliet.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it was the Romeo and Juliet, the Shakespeare book, and then they accentuated it with Buckley tunes, and which was very interesting, but also a little bit different.
You're getting
rock and
closer
roll.
to your world.
Yeah, exactly. And then I did a show with Diane Paulus and Steven Sater at ART called Prometheus Bound, which was an incredible show. It was written by Serge Tankian from System of a Down, which is a heavy metal band.
Yeah.
And he wrote some incredible music that had all different ranges, and I was able to really show off my rock voice in that. And then from there, I started Kinky Boots, and was in the original company of Kinky Boots, and got to work with one of my idols, Cyndi Lauper.
This is incredible. Yeah.
And saw that project all the way from the start, all the way to fruition, Broadway, Tony Awards, all of that. And that was so very exciting. So it started to kind of lay the groundwork out for what I was good at and what I was excelling at, which was a little bit off the charts musical theater. So still musical theater based, but it had an edge to it. And then I heard that Hedwig was coming to Broadway, and I knew the show. I saw it in 99 with my sister. We cried. We sobbed.
Right?
Life-changing.
It is. If anyone hasn't seen it, I can't get that across enough. I told you the night I saw your show, and you probably don't remember, because when I met Lena, I was just like, blah, 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 blah. And I cried, and I was sobbing, and you walked through the audience, and I didn't want to take your hand because I had dirty tissues, and I didn't want to do that to you, but I thought, oh, God, I hope I didn't throw you, which, of course, I did not. But Hedwig is so moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's such, because I saw it in 99 as well, and then, coming back around to Broadway. So you were moved by it in 1999. Now you find out it's coming back.
It's coming back with Neil Patrick Harris. I I knew the character of Yitzhak. I knew it would be a great fit. I knew I'd be really passionate about that project. I wanted it so bad. And so for my very initial audition, I walked in. I was probably one of the only girls that came in full drag with a guitarist on electric guitar with a Marshall amp. And so when they called me in, I had my guitarist go first, and then I came behind him with the Marshall amp and all of the wires wrapped around. And I came in, I set him up because I knew that Yitzhak was a roadie. I set him up, stood there, and then I was like, I'm going to sing blah blah from so and so. So that's how I started my audition process.
Yeah.
For the final callback, John was there, Stephen was there, Michael Mayer, everybody was there. They were filming it for Neil.
No pressure.
No pressure. And it was between shows of Kinky Boots, because I was still doing Kinky Boots. It was between shows on a Wednesday. So right after the show of Kinky Boots, I had to change, get into male drag, run to my audition. And I had a very finite amount of time because I had to go back and do a show at night.
Wow.
So when I got there, so what they wanted for the final callback is they wanted you to walk into the room, full character, never to drop character. You're always Yitzhak. They were like, we're going to ask you some questions. We want you to tell a story in character. It can be a monologue, a joke, whatever. Then we want you to do all of the stuff we gave you from the show. And then you're going to do an improv scene with John Cameron Mitchell.
Oh, wow.
Which, yeah,
Okay.
it's like heart attack city.
Yeah.
So I get there and we're waiting on a producer whom is at my Christmas party, Kinky Boots Christmas party, which I had to not go to go to this audition. So we're waiting for that producer to get there. I was like, what? And so he finally shows up. I go in, and they start off. They want the story. So what I had done was I had written a 2.5 minute monologue about Yitzhak's backstory, how he grew up on a small farm in like northeastern Croatia that was the sole provider of the yak hair for the Whigs and Cats. And it was almost like a boom town. So it was booming because Cats was on Broadway and in London, and they needed the yak hair. And then when Cats closed, the town, it went under and it became desolate. So it was how Yitzhak knew about Broadway and how he knew about Rent on Broadway and how he wanted to be Angel in Rent on Broadway. It all tied in. Then at the end, towards the end of the monologue, I finally make it to New York. It's a long journey. I'm finally in New York, and I see that Rent is closed on Broadway. And it's devastating. And instead, Newsies is there. Now, this is when Newsies was there. And so the whole reason I was in the room, because I had to come up with a reason why Yitzhak would be in that room in the first place, doing these things for these people auditioning. It was the reason why I was there was to get them to donate to my Kickstarter campaign to bring Rent back to Broadway so I could star as Angel in Rent on Broadway. Now, this is I as Yitzhak. And so after I did my monologue, I pulled out a computer, I turned it on, and I played my Kickstarter campaign video, which was 2.5 minutes long, of me filmed around New York. I had a candlelight vigil in front of the Winter Garden Theater where Cats was for my family. I had pictures of my family up. You know, I went in front of Newsies and I was picketing Newsies and I was like, rent is due. And it was a very elaborate thing.
Incredible.
But it made sense because I had to make sense of why I was in the room in the first place. So I really went above and beyond.
This is like the greatest audition of all time, by the way.
Well, I got an email. I mean, what the worst thing was that was going on was this is 40 minutes. The entire room is dead silent. Dead silent. The only person that laughs kind of every once in a while a little bit is John Cameron Mitchell. He does like a little chortle every once in a while. He's like, ha ha. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm blowing it. I can't believe I'm blowing it. But I asked them afterwards, it's like, why were you guys so quiet? And they said, well, we were so blown away by what you were doing. We weren't even breathing. We were into what you were doing, but we couldn't believe what was going on in front of us. You were just so amazing. And I was like, well, thank you for not laughing.
And do I have the part?
Yeah. And I got the part,
Yes.
amazingly enough. Thank God I got the part.
Yes, yeah.
So sometimes those work. I mean, it would have either been amazing or it would have fallen completely flat, but I had to kind of go for it because I wanted it so bad. So that got me the role. And then it kind of just opened up everything. I was able to work with Neil. It was a great rehearsal process. I was still doing Kinky Boots while I was rehearsing.
Wow.
And when we opened, I still had no idea what kind of an impact I would have on the audience. In rehearsals, I really felt in the background. I was confused. But once we had our first audience, our first preview, I felt the whole audience just at one moment turn and be on my side completely and just root for me. And I've never felt that before. And I knew that there was something good going on. And then, of course, the Tony nominations happened, and then the Tony Awards.
And then you won a Tony.
And then I won a Tony. And
how incredible.
So it's just one of those things that you don't know what the outcome's going to be because you're on stage, you're living the life of the character. So until you get it in front of an audience, then you have some kind of idea, but you still have no idea what the impact is, the true impact is, because you are on the stage living it. So it was a really cool experience. I left at the beginning of April while John was in the show to go do a show at the Carlisle Cafe. And my final performance in Hedwig was I've never, ever experienced anything like it. Not only did the fans, they came in the droves dressed as me, as Yitzhak, as Crystal Nacht, like dressed in my outfits. They also, the minute my boot came on stage, they were on their feet celebrating because I had been the one constant through the whole year of the run.
You had 4 Hedwigs, right?
4 wives, yeah. I had Neil Patrick Harris, Andrew Reynolds, Michael C. Hall, and then John Cameron Mitchell. And after every song, it was a standing ovation, which was amazing to me. I'd never thought that I'd had that kind of an impact on people. And they let me do something really cool at the beginning of the show, which was sing a song that was never in the show, but it was on the off-Broadway cast recording. It's called Random Number Generation. And we had it rehearsed in case anything on stage went wrong and Hedwig needed to leave stage for 3 minutes or something. We had this song prepared just in case so we could keep the show kind of going. And we never needed to use it. So they let me do the song right before the show as a sound check. And so I came on stage and the audience was going insane before I even did anything. I was just on stage and they were going insane. Standing ovation was crazy. And then I went up to the microphone and I tapped it and I said, check. And I said, you want to do sound check, boys? And I was talking to the band. And so we kicked into the song and everybody went insane and it just helped with the energy. Help with my energy. It made me stop crying.
Oh, yeah.
First of all.
Yes.
It was like the minute I stepped out on stage, I was like,
because how can you leave a show like that? I mean, it's got to be so hard. How did you know it was time to go?
I felt like doing it with the original person, the man who wrote the show, that it would be the highlight. It would just be the highlight, and I needed to move forward at that point. They're as wonderful as Darren Criss, and I'm sure Taye Diggs is going to be amazing. It was just that time for me to leave. My body was starting to really show wear and tear, and I needed to open myself up to new experiences, new passion projects. And the Carlisle Hotel had offered me these 2 weeks in April, and I didn't want to say no because I wanted to just kind of start branching out and doing my own thing, but being open for new projects, basically. And so that was pretty much the reasoning why. And I also wanted to go out with John because he wrote it. It's just historic.
It's just, again, I'm just going to go on and on. But besides your performance, just the most beautiful performance, the most heartfelt, touching, authentic performance I have ever seen. He's just amazing. For you to be on stage with him every night must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was cool. And while all of them are equally as amazing with their interpretations of what they do, it's not really fair to compare anyone because he wrote it it is him. He is her. I always liken it to Judy Garland wrote a show about herself, and it was put up by the best Judy Garland impersonators ever, and they were amazing. And then all of a sudden, Judy Garland was like, "I want to do the show now." You know, it's that. It's the person who created it, the person who wrote it. That is like the authentic person. Everyone else is wonderful and their interpretations are amazing, but it's a totally different thing. What was really cool about my last show was when I came out into the aisle to go and turn into Crystal Knocked. I came down the stairs and was sobbing. I started sobbing at the end of the long grift. I was just sobbing. And as I walked down the stairs, the entire row of people had roses and were handing out roses to me. Oh. And so I just grabbed them all on the way up and I had a full bouquet. And I thought one of the producers had done that, but one of the fans did it.
Wow.
A fan passed those roses out before the show and told everyone to hide them, and they all gave them to me as I was walking down the aisle. And one of the people that was in the aisle seat was John Waters.
Oh.
So there's John Waters handing me a rose.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like I was in a movie. It was amazing. So that journey is over, and it was an incredible one. And I'm ready to move on and move into new ventures and start releasing albums and things and passion projects of my own, basically.
Which is what you're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be performing with your band. The band is The Deafening.
Yes.
And you're going to be in town pretty soon, right? It's coming up in July.
Yeah, July 8th. We're going to be performing at the Gramercy Theater around 9 o'clock. Which is a normal show. We would usually do shows at midnight or 1 a.m. because I would be doing Hedwig, and then I'd go do a show with my band after. Insane.
Oh, wow.
So we get to do a normal show at a normal hour. So some rock and roll. Now, while it's cool to rock and roll at midnight and 1 a.m., it's a little harder for other people. So
yeah, well, for those of us who have to get up in the morning, thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. So
tell us about the kind of music, because you're pretty varied in the artists that you like and the songs that you like to cover. I know you have originals as well, but where do your tastes lie?
Well, there's multiple facets of who I am. This one facet of me, my band, is hard rock. It's kind of like Guns N' Roses, little AC/DC, there's little Motorhead influences in there. I mean, it's hard rock, and we're unapologetically loud. We like to be loud. And my voice, basically, it's where I get all my power from. And this is my passion project because I can do anything I want on stage. It is rock and roll, so you can do whatever you want. And with that kind of freedom, I've put together the stage performance of it is much more theatrical than just standing with a band and performing. I've got tons of costume changes. I use props. I use my teeth from Dracula. Sometimes I go out in the audience, I bite someone, I spit blood all over them, and I come back all bloody. You know, I use those over-the-top theatrical elements that rock and roll has always really had, and I infuse them into the show to make it fun for the audience, because not a lot of people are that open to listening to new rock and roll. It's hard to explain, but people just want the classics. And so there's got to be some kind of a hook. There's got to be something that will pull the audience in. And while we do have really good songs, good hooky songs, it's still hard for the audience to get on board with brand new hard rock music that sounds retro.
Right.
So what we're working on a new album right now, which is going to be a double album. And one album is going to be all hard rock, driving rock. And then the other album is going to be our softer side. And will be all ballads
Nice.
Day and night. And we just think it's fun. Because everything is self-produced and we don't have to answer to anyone, we can do what we want. And I think that kind of freedom and creativity makes for a better, more interesting project. Not having too many people involved telling you what to do. You know, it's just the band. We can do what we want, and I get to perform how I want. So July 8th we'll be doing some new stuff and some of our older stuff, which is all available on iTunes. We have an album, we have 2 EPs, all available, and a single.
Great.
Which everyone likes.
Do you do a lot of the writing?
I don't. I do a lot of the interpretation. So my guitarists, we have 2 guitarists. They write the music, and then they bring it to me, and I end up interpreting it in a certain way, and it becomes then that. So I need them, but they also need me,
of course,
to do the interpretation.
You bring it to life.
Yeah. So that's on July 8th if anybody wants to see some hard rock. I don't know if it's your thing, but but we'll be at the Gramercy Theater. And then another thing that I'm doing is I've been doing something. I did a show at the Carlisle, and the Carlisle usually has very traditional performers. They do either show tunes or they do the American Songbook kind of standards. And it's always been like that. And they asked me to do the show after they saw me perform for Elaine Stritch for her tribute. I sang Broadway Baby, but I did it a la me, so it had a little grit to it, a little dirt to it, a little rock and roll. And so they approached me after, and they were like, "We want you to do 2 weeks at the Carlisle." And I said, "Okay, but I don't really like sit and sing show tunes.
Do you know what you're
out
asking for?
Yeah, do you know? Yeah, I'm a little bit more edgy." And they're like, "No, we want the edginess. We want you to bring in a new, like a younger crowd, something that's a little more energetic, a little more edgy." So they gave me no holds bar. They'd let me sing whatever I wanted. And I was still going to respect the space because you have to respect the space that you're in. But I brought in a huge eclectic mix of music I started with a Jack White song called 3 Women, which is off his new album Lazaretto. So that was brand new. And then I followed up with a Led Zeppelin song, and I did a David Bowie song. I did a James Brown song. One of the people's favorites was I did Psycho Killer by the Talking Heads. And what's interesting is that while I was picking songs for the Carlisle, I had picked Psycho Killer ages ago. I don't know why it was one of the first songs on the list when I thought of the Carlisle. I was like, Psycho Killer would be great
what
there. So oddly enough, I did a workshop with David Byrne of a new show that he's developing with Alex Timbers at the Public Theater. And while I was doing the workshop, I went up to him and I said, strangely enough, I'm doing one of your songs at the Carlisle. And he said, "Well, what song?" I said, "It was Psycho Killer." And he said, I've always wanted to do that song as a creepy ballad, and they'll never let me do it as a creepy ballad. They always make me do it as an up-tempo." And I said, "Well, your wish is my command, man." And so we ended up doing it as this really slow, really deliberate ballad, and everyone loved it. And so it was one of the highlights of the night, as well as this song by Hozier, which was done on the Grammys, called "Take Me to Church." I did that song, and I didn't change it too much, but that was, again, another one of everyone's favorites. So essentially what we're doing is we recorded the night, and I'll be releasing the full live Carlisle album.
Nice.
Out there. And then I want to release the live album on vinyl because I think it'll sound really cool.
Nice and crunchy. I like
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm all about that. I'm all about that. And then we're going to record just offhand. We're going to record 2 singles. So we're going to do the Psycho Killer cover, and we're going to do the Take Me to Church cover, and just release those as 2 covers, and hopefully release them as a 45 with an A side and a B side. So I think it would be cool to kind of have that feeling, that just to get the sense of where I live and what I like to sound like. I always feel like I have this kind of retro sounding voice, almost like Ann Wilson or Janis Joplin, or like throwing a little Bon Scott in there. And,
I keep hearing they're going to do a movie on the, Janis Joplin's life. So
yeah,
let's just, while we're talking, you'd be perfect.
I would be amazing.
Can I be your agent or your publicist or something and make this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start drinking Southern Comfort right now.
You're such a wise choice. Oh, and look, she has it in her pocket. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Lena, but every time I think of you, I think Lena Rocker Hall, because that's how I follow you. Instagram, Twitter. So is that the best way for us to keep up with your career and get all your great pictures and information?
Yes, absolutely. Lena Rocker Hall, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. Even you can follow me on Facebook too. A lot of posts happen that way. And also I have a website which hasn't been updated in a long time.
In your spare time.
I know.
Just work on that.
I know. I have to talk to my graphic designer and be like, can we update this? I don't even know what to update. So many things have happened. What do I do? Which is a great problem to have.
Yes,
but
yeah.
at the same time, it's just like, what do you do? But yeah, that's the best way to keep up with me.
And the website is Lena Rocker Hall as
just
well?
LenaHall.com.
Just Lena Hall. Okay.
Just flat out my name.
Got it. All right. Well, I guess we'll let you go. I love talking to you.
I know.
Time's flying. It's really great of you to come by. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. Anytime.
Just look forward to everything happening in your career and watching you and hearing you. So we'll be here. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, maybe I'll come back and you can hear the Carlisle album.
Would you please do that?
Yes.
Okay, we're in. Thank you. Good, we're hooked up.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Thank you.